What's up, everybody? This is Chris from Many Worlds Tavern. Today we're going to be trying something a little bit different. This is going to be a tier list ranking thing of my favorite tabletop deck building games. We've been featuring a lot of digital ones on the channel here. Go check out our videos on, we just played Tainted Grail Conquest. We've played Slay the Spire. We've played the digital version of Shards of Infinity. There's a lot of content on here going over some of those games, and I think deck building is really interesting. If you're not familiar with the concept, as opposed to a trading card game like Magic or Pokemon where you buy packs and build your deck and then bring your deck to the game, in deck building games usually you have some starting cards, but then over time there's some mechanism in the game that lets you gain cards that are maybe better, or sometimes you gain stuff that helps you cull your deck, so you're building your whole deck during the game. I really like it because all the different strategies manifest from the start of the game, so you're kind of at the whims of maybe the market or the cards that are out that you have available to purchase. There's different ways that these games handle a marketplace type situation, but I really like how you don't have any strategy to begin with. You kind of, or if you go in with a strategy, if the cards that you need don't come out, you're gonna have to pivot, and I love that about deck building. So to start off, we've got a few different tiers here. Top of the list, Heart of the Cards. We're gonna go to really great, solid, and not my favorites. I'm gonna be a little polite and say not my favorite, because I think even the games that I really kind of dislike on this list, I'm not opposed to trying them again, and I think at the end of the day the deck building mechanisms are pretty solid in all these games. I picked all the most popular stuff on Board Game Geek, so definitely no games on here that are like broken. And then I think there's enough fans of each game that if there's something that's not my favorite, I'm definitely willing to give it another shot. So unfortunately, I have not played these games. Down here I've got Great Western Trail, which I feel like is a huge hole in my board gaming experience. I definitely need to try that out. Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, Legendary Alien Encounters, Lost Ruins of Arnak, Mage Knight, Paperback, Thunderstone Quest, The Quest for El Dorado, Trains, and Tyrants of the Underdark. So definitely trying to try out some more of these soon. I was really tempted to pick up Tyrants at Gen Con because there's new edition out, but alas, I skipped it. Hopefully one of these days coming up soon. Okay, let's talk about some games down here. Let's rank them. Arctic Scavengers. I'm gonna drag games to the middle while I talk to them, but they might not stay in the solid tier. I'll leave it. I'll drag it to the middle. Arctic Scavengers is a really interesting. Let's start off. Actually, I'm gonna be referencing it a lot. I think I'm gonna start off with Dominion. Dominion, I think, is the OG deck building game. If somebody else invented it, Dominion really popularized it. In Dominion, you're playing your cards out. There's usually coins on the cards or certain actions, and then there are a bunch of supply piles out of different valued cards. You buy them and add to your deck. Dominion, even to this day, I think is really great. I think if you don't have a lot of expansions, it can get kind of tiring, but I think also if you look up online like Dominion strategies, there's people that have really dove into the game and try to come up with all the best paths to win, and I think it's a bit deeper than it feels on the face. I think a lot of these games have Dominion probably as inspiration, and I think it's still fun to play, so I'm actually going to put it into the really great tier. All right, Arctic Scavengers. Arctic Scavengers is like I don't know if it's a post-apocalyptic thing or if it's actually takes place in the Arctic, but the theme is it's cold and you're trying to survive. The most interesting thing about Arctic Scavengers is the fight mechanic. I think it might be called skirmish or something like that, where for example, in Dominion, you play your whole hand almost every turn. I don't know if it's forced. I can't remember if it's forced or there's almost no reason not to because you're going to discard it anyway. But Arctic Scavengers has this thing where the cards you don't play get used for the skirmish phase, and the cards you don't play have some kind of attack value. And if you win the skirmish, or let me back up, after a round of all the players have played, then you compare the cards that you withheld for their battle points, and then you get a reward. I think you get a card, or you can pick a card if you win a skirmish. So unfortunately, it's been a minute since I played Arctic Scavengers. I remember thinking that skirmish mechanism is really interesting, but I also remember thinking that the design space, the decision space was not as vast as some of these other games. So I'm going to leave it in solid. Aeon's End. Aeon's End is a cooperative deck builder. You're playing as these mages, and the goal of the game is to beat a boss. There's a lot of bosses in the box, and you are trying to beat one of them before all of your mages get wiped out or the town suffers a defeat. Aeon's End is, I think, one of my favorite games right now. I'm going to put it all the way at the top, heart of the cards. There's a ton of mages that you can play as, and so for example, if you're playing a 4-player game, and everyone's playing a different mage, each mage has a different passive ability, and or usually they have a passive ability. Everyone has this like ultimate ability that you can invest your spend on over time. There's also different starting cards for every mage, and then also the way you attack these bosses is with spell cards, but spell cards have to be played on these things called breaches. And almost every mage has a different breach setup. So some of them will have the defaults or the max of 4, but some of them will be opened and some of them will be closed, which you will have to open during the game. There are some mages that have just 1 breach, so they're playing totally differently than the mages that have 4. Pair that with a different market every game, and then a different boss every game. There's so much replayability. There's so many combinations. Unless you tried, I don't think you could have the same game twice. So yeah, Aeon's End, really fantastic. Oh, one more thing. Another really, really cool mechanism is in Aeon's End, you never shuffle your deck. In most games, like in these two, Dominion and Arctic Scavengers, after you draw through your deck, you're supposed to pick it up and shuffle it before you make it into your draw pile again. Aeon's End, after you play your cards, you can manipulate where they go in your discard pile, and then when you are ready to draw through again, you just flip your discard pile over. This is really, really cool because you can kind of plan out your combos a lot better compared to these games where you're really fishing for a big turn. Whereas Aeon's End, if you're really counting and trying for it, you can get rewarded for really, really big combos. Aeon's End, heart of the cards. Ascension. Ascension is probably the deck building game I played right after Dominion. And Ascension, I think, is the first time I experienced a market that refreshes when you buy it. So in Dominion, there's a market of cards, and they're in piles. So there's like multiple copies of each card in piles. In Ascension, you have a big market deck, and then you have, I believe, 5 cards that get drawn out, and you can buy from those. When you buy one, you flip a card from the market deck and put it into the middle again. So Ascension is really plays on that idea that you can't go in with a set strategy. You have to pivot. For example, if you're looking for a certain type of card that synergizes with your favorite strategy and it's not coming up, you can't rely on that. So Ascension does a great job of, you got to play with the cards that are dealt, literally. I think there's some games, especially there's one game on the bottom here that for me really replaces Ascension, but I still have a pretty good fondness of it in my gaming history. So and I think it's still a great game. It's just a little bit of a smaller card variety than one of these big games down here, or better games down here. So I'll leave Ascension in solid. Clank is the first deck building game that I played with a board. So you're having your hand of cards, and some of the cards have things like move 1, move 2. So you'll be moving your piece on a board based on the actions from your deck. I think Clank is really, really novel in that it's more of it's very simple to play. I think some of the other deck building, if you have never played a card game like Magic or Hearthstone or something like that, some of the strategies might not be so obvious. But I think Clank, making the cards have this tangible thing of moving your pieces, I think it's way more accessible for people that have never tried a deck builder. That said, I don't think I love the Clank mechanism, which is there are some cards that cause you to clank, and you put these cubes in a dice bag and you pull them, and after a certain amount of time you get burned up by a dragon from getting pulled too much. I've never liked that part of Clank. I think there's too many games where it's a non-factor, like nobody is on the edge of death, and there are some times where it really gets a little too unlucky and somebody is playing from behind, essentially. So yeah, I'm gonna leave Clank in solid. I'll leave Clank in solid. Dune Imperium. Dune Imperium, along with Lost Ruins of Arnak down here. And then I believe there's a game coming out called Endless Winter. They are games that combine deck building with worker placement. And Dune is the first game I've tried like that. And I really need to try Lost Ruins of Arnak. But I think Dune is a great game. If I was just saying the game, like the complete worker placement plus deck building, I'm gonna put it in really great, or even Heart of the Cards. But I'm worried about the deck building part of Dune. I think so you have to get cards in Dune. You have to place your worker on a specific space to be able to buy from the market. And I think because of that, it's pretty hard to plan your deck in a way that it is like Ascension or Aeon's End, where you're like, ooh, I'm gonna go for this after you see them come out. Dune, I feel like there are times when you're playing and the whole market looks bad to you or doesn't go with your character, and you can play Dune without doing much deck building at all, just focusing on the board. Or there's usually a lot of times in Dune where you kind of get a card, but also you just get it because it's the best card you can pick up that turn, not because you have a plan for it. So I think it's gonna stay in solid. I love the combination, and I love that there's even like a combat phase, but yeah, the deck building part is the weakest part of Dune. I'm gonna keep it in solid. Eternal Chronicles of the Throne. I heard about this game from Neelan on the Board Game Barrage podcast. He talks about it and compared it to Shards of Infinity. I think Eternal feels like magic a lot. The keywords feel like magic, like the abilities that your character, your cards can do. That said, I do not think it is my favorite. There are a lot of tokens. It's kind of fussy, as opposed to like Ascension is, I think, all cards. Maybe there's damage tokens, but in Eternal there are like wings and modifiers and armor, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to keep track of that doesn't feel as I feel like it's too much fiddliness for the return. So I'm gonna leave Eternal Chronicles of the Throne down here. Fort is a game, it's the same art style as Root, and because of that it is beautiful. I think the design of the box, or like the components in the box, where every player gets a big player reference sheet. Why aren't more games doing more reference sheets? Like, take out a page of your rulebook and print more reference sheets. Fort. So the design, you're kind of playing out cards, and then the cards you can't play, they go out for people to buy off of you. Thematically, I think you're playing with kids in your neighborhood, and then the kids you don't play with, other people can scoop them up as their own friends. So Fort plays really cool. I'm gonna put it though in not my favorite. I think it's a game that I respect as far as the design choices go. It's definitely one of the most unique ones on the whole list so far, because of that mechanism with the kids leaving your fort. But I think just the actions that you do are not as fun as like Ascension, where you're building up tons of damage points to fight off a monster. That seems more fun than in Fort. You're kind of like collecting pizza slices, but they're kind of just collecting them to turn them into other stuff. You're definitely like converting numbers more in Fort instead of fighting monsters or escaping a dungeon or fighting for political intrigue in the Dune universe. So yeah, for some reason Fort, it doesn't click with me that much. I think this is a beloved game from the last year, but I'm gonna put it in not my favorite. Legendary. Legendary is another cooperative deck building game. I've not played enough Legendary. I've only played it once or twice. I remember thinking that the decisions were kind of too simple. It reminded me a lot of Keyforge, where I've got my hand, I'm going to plop it down, I'm going to do what I can and move on. Whereas a lot of these other games, there's more strategy to them. I also remember thinking that it was weird how many duplicate cards there were. It's weird that there's like Iron Man, Iron Man, Iron Man. I'm going to play all three of these. So I think I need to try it again. Maybe if it's the kind of game too that benefits from a big collection. I know some people that have every card in Legendary, so maybe I have to play with them and see some of the more complex combos. But for now, I will leave it in not my favorite. This one seems very popular. So if you guys like Legendary, you gotta let me know why. What did I get wrong about it? Should I try it again? That kind of thing. Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale is super interesting. You are deck building with components of cards. So the game comes with these card sleeves, and in the card sleeves there's room for like 3 sections of a card. You're kind of building a card. So you draft, you get sections of card, and then you slot them in the card sleeves. So you can make cards that have like really cool like triple effects by putting them all in a card sleeve. So it's super interesting. It is very, very intriguing, that concept, but I did not like Mystic Vale. Oh no, I've got a lot of not my favorites. I think yeah, it's understandable. I think there's a lot of room. There's so many deck builders that there'll be room for not my favorite. Mystic Veiled has this weird. I think it's weird. I think some people could like it, but you kind of push your luck when in the buying phase, where you're kind of flipping over cards, then you can choose to stop. I don't remember the bust mechanic, but yeah, you kind of play cards out, and then when you stop, after that is when you buy. I really thought that was funny to play. I don't really know thematically why that was the way you gained buy power, but yeah, I think not my favorite mechanism. And the card building seemed a little fussy. I think it's still a concept that I want to explore more in more games, but Mystic Veil didn't hit for me. Shards of Infinity. Shards of Infinity is the game I was talking about that replaced Ascension for me. I think it just has cooler combos you can pull off. It feels there's cool ways to make it so that you don't have any dead turns. So there's this mechanic in Shards where you can kind of level up your character, and it's called Mastery. And then some of your cards have additional effects at, for example, 5 Mastery or 10 Mastery. There's even a card that when you hit 30 Mastery, which is the max, there's one card that you can play where you play it and you win the game. You do infinite damage. So that makes the game really smooth playing. Even when you feel like the cards in the market are not what you want, you can always build up your mastery. You can always, there's ways to get out of it. Shards, I think, has the most hours I've played of any game on this list, because it's so quick to pull out. You just shuffle the market up, deal out your starters, and go. Which I think is something that hurt Eternal. There's too much sorting of tokens and extra stuff that you had to take, you have to track, whereas Shards is ready to go. Yeah, that's gonna go in Heart of the Cards. Star Realms. Star Realms is kind of plays like Shards, and I think Shards and Star Realms. Shards, I think, came after, and I think Shards plays pretty similarly to Star Realms in that in Star Realms you can have these like buildings that stay out turn over turn, and in Shards you can have these champions that stay out turn over turn. So you have to make a decision as an enemy player to go for the opponent's face or go for their buildings or champions. So they are similar in that way. Star Realms, I think, is faster than Shards, but because of that as well, I think there is a little bit less variety. So I'm gonna leave it below Shards, and I'm gonna put it in Solid. Is this how I want my list to go? I think so. I think Dune is the best game I have in Solid that I want to bump up, but the deck building part is not good, or is not special. And I think on a tier list about deck building, maybe I don't put it higher. We'll see. Did I put it up here? We'll do a re-ranking after all of this. Summer Camp. Summer Camp is a race game. I believe it is similar to Quest for El Dorado, even though I've never played it. Summer Camp is a new game by Philip Walker Harding. You are playing as campers, and you're playing cards to gain merit badges and get to the end of a track. Summer Camp is very, very good. I think it's very good. The problem it has is the card variety is really poor, I think. And it seems like it wouldn't be based on when you open the box. Because when you open the box, you have all these decks of cards. You only pick 3 of the decks to play with every game. So I was really excited because I thought oh man, there's going to be all these combinations similar to Aeon's End. We're going to be having combinations of setups. The problem is every deck has these like move 1, move 2, move 3 cards. And there's only a few other unique ones. A lot of them do not interact with each other. A lot of them do not interact with other players. So I think it's a good game, but it's also kind of on the simple side. And I think that's good for accessibility purposes. But I don't think it's good for replayability. So I'm going to leave Summer Camp in solid. Undaunted. This is Undaunted Normandy. I have not played the other version yet. Undaunted is a war game where you're deck building, and your deck build stuff is your troops. So when you gain troops, you can either spawn them or move them, and then or attack with them, and then there's some dice rolling going on to fight the enemy. You know, I think I've owned this since it came out. I've only played it a few times, but I think it's pretty dang good. I think there might be a reason that I've not played it a lot, though. I think it's also just because I'm not super into things like war games and miniature games, like classic war games, and then even like Warhammer and 40k stuff. I've never really been that into roll dice combat, so I think that's why I'm a little hesitant on liking Undaunted, because I think I always feel like I'm worried somebody's going to get really lucky or really unlucky and it'll be a bit fragile. But I think the deck building part, if you go in with a mindset that we're going to be fighting and deck building to mitigate this luck, can be really, really good. Let's leave it in solid for now. Shift Dreadmire. This is a CMON game that I think is pretty underrated. I don't see anybody playing it, but it's pretty cool. There's like a tower defense feeling game where you play out your cards, and then you wait for the aliens to attack you, and you kind of resolve each effect as they're like closing in. It's kind of like short programming sequence. I think it is lacking in card variety a little bit because the box is big, but I don't know how many expansions they have. I've never bought one. I don't think there's a lot, so I think they kind of abandoned it. And I think there's some problem with play speed, especially. I don't know if I want to play it with 3 or 4 players. I think it's pretty solid at 2 players, just for the amount of time you're spending strategizing together. But I think it's really good. I'm gonna put it in really great. Yeah. I think it's just because it's really hard. Before Aeon's End, I only had Shift Dreadmire for my cooperative deck building games, and it just feels great. In all of these games, it feels great to make combos. So when you can make combos with another person, it feels awesome. So I'm going to leave it in really great. Is this my list? Let's see. Aeon's End. We can rank them in their sections as well. So you've got Eternal, Fort, Legendary, Mystic Vale. I think I do like Eternal the most out of these 4, and then Mystic Vale the least. I'm okay with this list here. In the solid tier, we got Arctic Scavengers, Ascension, Plank. I think I liked Dune Imperium a lot, and I think I had to give it a big caveat here in saying that the deck building part is not my favorite, but the game as a whole is really, really good, I think. Clank, Star Realms, Summer Camp, I think we can bring up. And Undaunted, I think we can bring up as well. Yeah. Dominion and Xenoshift. I will put Xenoshift ahead. Oh, okay. Aeon's End, Shards of Infinity. I'm going to keep those. I played so much Shards, and it's fantastic. I think it'll be second place, though. So there's my list. Aeon's End, Shards of Infinity, Xenoshift Dreadmire, Dominion, Dune Imperium, Undaunted Normandy, Ascension, Summer Camp, Arctic Scavengers, Clank, Star Realms, Eternal Chronicles of the Throne, Fort, Legendary, is that it? Legendary Marvel? Legendary? And Mystic Veil. That's my list. I'm confident about it. I think the ones I feel a bit bad about are these two going into really great. I think they're solid. I think Normandy is just a bit outside of my usual wheelhouse, so I need to play it some more. Ascension and Summer Camp, these games are so good. Many fond memories. And Clank I played many times, so yeah, lots of great games on this list. I'm gonna lock this in. That's it. If you liked this video, please let me know. If you didn't like this video, I'd love to hear it. Tell me why Fort is the best. You know, if this is your list, I want to talk to you. We got to figure out, you know, why I disagree with these a lot. Oh, I just pushed back. Okay, we're ending the video anyway. Okay, guys, thanks so much. This has been Chris from Many Worlds Tavern. Let's fix it before we go. Many Worlds Tavern is an online coffee company that sells coffee for game night. We're one of the only coffee companies that is going to post a deck building game tier list onto their YouTube channel. So if that matters to you at all, please support us. We'd love to send you some coffee. We're still pretty brand new. We've only been open for a few months, but we're having a lot of fun sending out coffee. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video here. See ya.